Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Talking True podcast. Welcome back. How have you been? How are you doing? How is the month of March going? How are you? How are you? How are you and how are you doing? How was your week? Right, I'm back here again. Yeah, and this may be a good sign because I promise to do better, and this is me trying to do better here consistently. But how are you doing? How was your week? How's work? How was your life? How was everything you had to go through? I know someone on social media who has a blog post on Substack. Now, I have a blog post on Substack, just using this opportunity to advertise, in case you were not aware. But her most recent post on Substack was about adulthood in a sense. So she was writing that it's been a lot, but then there is no time for her to experience, to stop, pause and feel what the lot looks like. So she's experiencing so many things, but she cannot stop to evaluate and self-reflect on the things, because stopping means that she will break down, and she cannot afford to break down because of how much she's been through right now. And then she talked about how her family and friends are coming through for her. Right. Why did I reference that story? Because I remember replying in the comment section of the blog post that one of the newest packages that comes with adulthood, which is where we are right now, is that you can feel that you are going through a lot of pressure, a lot of work. You are aware, but you cannot stop to do anything about it. Because the moment you stop to do something about it, a lot becomes more than a lot, and a lot drowns you. So I remember saying, what you do is you see a lot and look at a lot and say, hey, a lot, I can see you, but I do not have time for you right now. So just be there, let me be here. And I just remember putting your caption, like a little part into the comment, like, be strong, keep going, Jesus makes it make all the sense in the world. So in case you are going through a lot, like I told her in the comment section, I'm telling you now, Jesus makes it make all the sense in the world. There's something about Romans 8. Some people say Romans 8 is probably the best Bible chapter ever written. Agreeably so, right? But one thing I like is where scripture says all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. Every time I read that verse, I keep saying the Apostle Paul was so careful enough to not say all good things work together for good. So that leads to sets of statements. One, he said all things, so usually there will be any kind of things, bad, good, in between. Then work together for good. Now this is where it gets interesting. We usually don't know what our good looks like. So all things work together for good can be good in that everything makes sense in the end. Sometimes it can be good in that everything doesn't make sense in the end, but at the end you remember Jesus is all I have. And if all of the world ends now and I get to stay stuck with him forever in eternity, which is the good, by the way, because that's the most important good. No other good matches or comes close. If that is all that happens, that life doesn't now pander the way I want it on this side of the earth, well, rejoice knowing full well that if it doesn't pander on this side of the earth, it already pandered, if that's such a word, in eternity. So I think it's a beautiful statement. That thing we believers says, and I think one artist I respect used it in his song. He says, we never lose, I always win. The pastor used it in his sermon. I always win. Because it's easy to say that, to think that winning always will be that everything makes sense in the end. Sometimes winning will be that everything doesn't make sense on this side of the world, but that if I get to stay stuck with Jesus in eternity forever, then I always win. Right. How are you doing? Yeah, just went that 5 minutes to tell you that if your week was not giving, because mine does not give a lot these days, we are together. Right. So if you've been on this journey of the pod with me from the beginning, I remember episode 1 and 2 was some sort of introduction. And I remember saying on one of those episodes that one of the things I like is I like observing human behavior. I'm such a psychology nerd. I like all of the phenomenons and all of the stuffs. It's probably why I watch some of the movies I watch, right? I want to understand human behavior. I mean, I have seen a lot of crime movies to the point where it now stays stuck in my head that when I see a murder committed in a movie, I already know the driving force of these murders, which is the driving force of any sort of murder, at least by crime standards, is one of 3 things: love, sex, and money. Or power, sex, and money. So it has told us that the 3 most important motivations for death or for murder, right? And it's because I have seen a lot of this. So things psychology related get to me, right? I just have a thing for them, and well, let's not go there yet. Let's not let that cat out of the bag. I remember taking classes in psychology in school because they felt very practical. So I could read them and I could draw up imaginary scenarios to understand what I was reading. It didn't feel vague to me. So that's part of also the reason why I watch a lot of crime movies and docu-series and documentaries generally. And I remember that I even have an episode, 1 or 2 or few of such episodes where I do some talk about some sort of psychological concept. Well, this one is not any different, so fasten your belt. One of the things that we don't talk about a lot is that we are, as humans, or better still, let me put it this way. How does your friendship circle look like? Are you a I and my friend person, or are you a me and my friendship circle? So we are a circle of 4 or 5 friends linked closely together, or are you just I have a body who's my friend and it's just me and this person? So it's not we all know each other. So my friend is allowed to be friends with other people, right? It's not just a circle. What category do you think you place yourself? Now, I like friendship circles. I'm just unfortunate to not have one. I don't even know how to start. I admire a lot of friendship circles I know from Christians online. There are a lot of Christians online who I follow, male and female alike, and I know what their friendship circles are made of. There's even one. There's one I'm eyeing. Right? There's one I'm eyeing. I see that whenever they hang out to pray, they hang out to just gist. It's during special, a few times in the year. And when I see them, there are as many as I think 8 or 9. When you upload the pictures, upload videos of themselves just being, childish and stuff, I miss it like mad. But I've gotten used to the fact that I am such a just me and a single person kind of person stuff, right? I don't think I would ever be able to do a friendship circle because I find friendships very interesting. I find it some sort of chore to make, so I'm usually very careful, right? I find it very careful, right? So I've just noticed over time that as much as it's something that I want, I don't know that it's something that I know how to get. I desire a friendship circle kind of thing, me and 2 or 3 other persons, just all of us knowing full well about each other. There's just this joy and bond I see and I feel about it. But I discovered that it's not for us, it's not for all of us, and I don't do that Nigerian thing to beef it and say it doesn't last. That's so wrong. Please, if you know friendship circles, please, even if it's not going to last, do not envy. It takes a lot of work to make that grow. Respect the work that has been put into it, right? But one thing I noticed is that a lot of people want friendship circles but have very interesting expectations, right? They want situations where the person who is their friend has some sort of unquestionable loyalty to them. So you don't tell them no, you don't say how you feel. Even when you're going to say how you feel, it has to be something good. right? You can't, for those friendship circles to remain, some of these friendship circles, for them to remain, nobody has to be an outlier. Everybody has to be in it, right? Everybody has to be in it in some sort of way. So there's nobody questioning anything. And I think that is probably a reason why it may never work for me. Hold on. I'm the sort of friend who is very objective with my friends when you need me to be. But I remember being friends with this person back in my university days. We were very close. And then she would call me to give me gist. I think I've mentioned this on an episode of the podcast before. Called me to give me gist about, oh, this is what is going on. This is what our classmates did. This is what our friend did. This is what our boyfriend did and stuff. And usually when she calls me to give gist, because I can be very, very, very objective, I usually would ask her, what do you want me to say? Should I tell you the actual truth? Or should I just say, console you on this? And a lot of times she will be like, console me. Then a few times she'll say, okay, tell me the truth. And usually when I'm telling her the truth, she was the one who is wrong, I'll tell her, you are the one wrong in this situation. And I remember one day we were just talking about something, and then she said, we had another friend over, and then she said, no, that's why I can't tell Joseph anything. Joseph will judge me. I found it interesting and laughed, but I also found it weird, because I was surprised that she felt I was judging her. I just made it a thing where I decided that I was going to be the one person who tells you that you are wrong no matter what happens. I think we all need the no peoples in our life. And I posted about it on WhatsApp a few days ago. If your entire friendship circle is made up of yes people, it's very interesting, but it's not healthy. You need somebody to be able to tell you no and tell you where you messed up, because that's where pure growth resides. So I said all that to say this. In psychology, there is something called a confirmation bias. Now, a confirmation bias is when you need things, you need people that validate your opinion, your interests. That is, in plain language, you do not want anything that will make you question what you already believe or is different in opposition to the thing you know, the thing you believe, your friends, your lifestyle. Exactly. You don't want anything different. You want everything to confirm what you are currently doing. It must not go against it. When I found out that this was a concept, it was very interesting to know, because I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that sponsored my taking my walk with God seriously and getting a tiny interest, because I like to say it, that I have a very tiny, subtle interest into theology, into orthodoxy, basically trying to find out why we do the things we do and the rest. Right? What's the church's original belief? What is the expected belief biblically and culturally? One of the things that made me do this was, there was a period in my life where I used to listen to a sermon from a particular preacher. In fact, I introduced my entire family, well, my mom and my sisters, to that preacher. I'm talking 2017 up until 2021 or 2022, because I know I actively stopped listening to this preacher in 2024. Actively. Yeah. But by like 2023 and 2024, I had cut down on listening. And then I remember also just hearing from a lot of Christians and a lot of preachers that you should not be listening to a preacher that is not your pastor. Good intention. I get the idea. But one of the things that made me start to get interest, which I genuinely think every believer should do, I think that a time comes in your Christian life where you start to question a lot of things. Please note that questioning a lot of things is not equivalent to backsliding. Backsliding is when you question and start to pull back from your faith. You are allowed to question. All through the New Testament, Acts 17, the case of the Bereans is a clear example, right? Even the Israelites are a living example to question, ask questions, right? So, one of the things that prompted my sudden interest into this stuff was I joined Christian Twitter. Now, Now I remember joining, I found it interesting. And I saw people poking and asking questions about the thing that I have believed. Some of the things that I have believed, but I could not defend. Now some of these things are not outrightly wrong. Don't get me wrong. They were not wrong. But I just cannot defend it. It was interesting because he was hearing the way Christians, who may not necessarily be Pentecostals, Baptists and Anglicans, would poke, although they would do it very rudely, which is such a problem we still have, right, on that side of Twitter. But they would do it very rudely. But the thing is, they would poke questions at a lot of these things. And I would fight over the thing in my heart. Right. I remember one of those days, one of these tweets mentioning this preacher and how that some of the things he says are not biblical. And I remember one of those days, I got to work and I was moving very mad. I couldn't walk the hoodie, that thing. It felt like somebody finally wanted to kill my idol. Not idol like true, but like idol like someone I respect. And I was not having it for weeks. For a few days, I had to go off Twitter for months, come back, and I started seeing some of these things. And then some persons would be nice enough to poke and say some things about some of the things I believed. And then they would give detailed biblical explanation, and I would be muzzled. I would check Bible commentaries, and I would discover, my God, these guys are right. So I started cutting back, until I got to a point where I still listen to said preacher, but not so much anymore. Why did I go around the route of that preacher stuff? Preacher scenario. It's interesting that I never thought that a time would come when I would need something to poke my thoughts or my idea of my Christian faith. And I remember fighting like a lot thing. I'll join the sides that are saying, this, that, don't be. But at some point, I had to sit down one day and really think about it. This thing may not just be what I have learned and what I have known it to be. It may not just be what I have known it to be all this while. This thing may not just be it. And I was wondering. So I started doing research. And I found that there's a whole school of things that I ought to have known that I did not know. And being able to explain and being able to defend. And it was interesting that happened because just along the time of me doing some of this introspection, I had someone who, I don't want to say discipled because that's a very expensive word. I had a student who I was teaching, but who would also meet me for Bible study and Bible stuff. She would meet me about Bible stuff and ask me. And originally when she started, I'd give these answers. But when I started to question stuff, I stopped giving answers just from the thing that I experience and the thing that I see. I wanted this child to have solid Bible foundation. So I started reading. Sometimes when she would ask me questions, I'll tell her, give me a few days, I'll go and study. I remember there are sometimes when she called me in the middle of the night. I'll be like, sorry for disturbing you. I'm reading this scripture and it's not making sense. I'll say, okay. I'll hop on the call. I would read it. I would verse by verse contextually explain it to this person. And sometimes when I'm explaining, I'll remember her that I have heard sermons where that verse has been quoted out of context. And I will tell her. In fact, remember having a conversation with her one day where I told her that these are the type of wrong doctrines, wrong teachings you will hear about so and so kind of verses. This is why they are not true. So it's not just telling her what was wrong. I told her essentially biblically, this is why this thing does not apply. All of those stem from the fact that somebody poked my belief system. Now, I am saying this because sometimes, like I said earlier, you need someone to poke the thing that you have believed. You need someone to poke the way that you are behaving. Is why it cannot make any single sense that everyone around you answers yes and tells you yes and tells you the things that make you happy, I don't think that you are doing friendship right. I don't think you are doing lifestyle properly. Everyone cannot succumb. The books you read cannot just be all about the things that support the things you believe, because then you are really living in an echo chamber, right? You are unsafe, but you do not know it, because you can go a long while and then build an entire belief and belief system on false practices and not know it. And the thing about that type of danger is the fact that you get away with it in a way, because your heart will think it's firmer in its growing resolve. But the thing is, you'd make a lot of mistakes that you really should not have made. I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to step away from your lens. You need to step away from everyone. If you have people around you who constantly make you reevaluate the things that you do, poke your belief system to ask you why, to tell you this thing is wrong, I don't think those are the people you should dump away. I think you need 2 or 3 of no people in your life. You don't need so much of them, because so much no's now become negativity, right? But you need them. I remember settling a case of students a few days ago in school, and it was that 2 students, 3 children were fighting, 3 girls, over something, and then the lead, the alpha female, I'm joking, presents actually like the alpha female, came to report her that she told them to do this thing and this particular person said no. And I asked her, why are you surprised that this person said no? I said, don't you think she has the right to say no? She was trying to make it look like, but no. And I begged her. I said, no, it's her right to say no. You are just surprised that she could use the right of no on you. And she was stunned and looking at me. I said, yes. You asked for a favor. She said no. You shouldn't resort into a fight. You said let's do something. She weighed it that this thing would not end well, or it won't be nice, or it won't affect her properly. And she said no. You don't have to be bitter. I remember settling this issue and we let it go. And then I thought about it. That child was moody for the entire day, because apparently no from her group was not something she's expecting. So she's probably built like an entire group where whoever introduces something, everybody has to agree with it. But that's the thing. Because sometimes you can be genuinely wrong. You can build an entire castle of a belief system out of something that you just needed somebody to tell you that this thing is not, you're not doing it right. Confirmation bias doesn't help. If all your friends tell you yes, you're in such big mess. Guys, that's our episode for today. You do not want a situation where everyone tells you what you want to hear and not tell you what is right for you. Even as a Christian, you don't want to listen so much to a preacher or read text through the lens of a particular person, that when somebody has a different opinion of God's word from you, you judge them and you think they don't know any better. Because sometimes, I hate to break it to you, but you can be the one who is wrong. Dear Joe, you can be the one who is wrong. Until I come your way on the next one. It's Talking Joe. Remember, Jesus died for you. Bye.